district is dedicated to the ongoing pursuit of educational excellence through comprehensive, innovative curriculum and instruction. The district is committed to providing opportunities for social, emotional, and academic discovery to foster curiosity, courage, and character. Our goal is to prepare our students to become lifelong learners who are self-directed, resilient, productive, responsible citizens.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Castro?
Here.
Mr. Griffin?
Here?
Mrs. Levy?
Here.
Mrs. Norian?
Here.
Mrs. Shapiro?
Here.
Mrs. Walker? Mr. Walsh?
Here.
Mr. Darian?
Here.
Mrs. Nichols?
Here. Open to the public for agenda items only. Okay, I have no report, but did I read somewhere on Facebook that the mayor was going to be talking about July 4th activities or no? Did I make that up? I thought I saw that.
Someone reported it, not the mayor.
But we haven't heard anything from last night's meeting or anything? I guess there's no parade, right? Okay. I was hoping maybe we had a parade. I'll turn it over to the superintendent for her report.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Do you want to do your HIB report and do your report now? You want to do that now? Okay. All right.
Sure. Look out, what everyone's going to put a mask on. This is actually my fastest presentation of the year because it's the exact same presentation that I presented in October. Just as a reminder, I stand here today not as principal of Oradell Public School, but as the district's anti-bullying coordinator. In that role, I oversee the school's anti-bullying specialists to make sure that they meet deadlines and investigations. I oversee the actions and the work of the school and safety climate team when we're talking about programs and training, and I also submit all of our state reporting. So this is, as the title page said, not the 1920 school year. We're going all the way back to the 2018-2019 school year. As I said, when the school safety and climate team did our self-assessment, I presented that self-assessment to you on October 16th. You were so generous as a board, you allowed me to do that on my birthday. So write that date down right now. Make sure you memorize it. Okay. We then submitted that to the state in the beginning of June. They released that they agreed with our self-assessment. So just as a review, these are the 8 core elements where we assess ourselves. And it's always important to remember that our score has nothing to do with the number of investigations or the number of confirmed bullying acts in the school. And this is our review of the past 4 school years. We've always taken a stance as a school and as a district that our goal is just to improve slowly each time. As we've said to you before, if you want a perfect 78, we can give you a perfect 78. But that doesn't mean that we have the greatest school climate. It means that we jump through the right hoops. And I would rather spend our energy doing the right things for the children of Oradell than jumping through hoops. So where we grew this past year is in the programs, and that would be including some of our social emotional learning through the school counselor. Open Circle wouldn't yet be in that score because Open Circle was implemented in the 2019-2020 school year. And right now we are working on our self-assessment for the 2019-2020 school year, which I will share with the board in the fall. And our big focus this year, and you'll remember that from the parent training that we started to mandate, saying that all parents who were going to volunteer in our school community had to attend a parent training every 4 years, because we wanted to make sure that as a community we understood what the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act said, what the criteria was for an event to meet the threshold to be labeled as bullying, and really to start putting information and knowledge in parents' hands before a cyber conflict happened or before a cyberbullying happened. So that was really our focus this year. Now, I can't tell you that that will result in a higher score, but I can tell you that I'm proud of our efforts in that area, and I think it brought some really great conversation to our community, and it helped to put us more on an equal playing field that we all understood the same language. So if you have any questions for me, otherwise, President Nichols, I think I've beat my record.
Can you talk about how is the protocol different for what constitutes an investigation versus what constitutes an HIB?
Okay, we always have an investigation. So if there is a claim of HIB, okay, we start an investigation. It's whether or not it meets the threshold. So was there an imbalance of power? Did it impact the school learning environment of that child? Okay, and did the child want to come to school or not?
Okay, so, but from a teacher's standpoint, if the staff is going to, report, are they going to be the ones that would report an incident as it needs to be investigated, or is that typically the kid that does that?
We have forms on our website for all three. A parent can identify an act, a teacher can identify an act, a student can identify an act.
I guess
And the
I'm just
most
asking
important-
what the distinction is on what can be investigated.
Anything that someone feels should be investigated gets investigated.
Okay.
It's not a teacher's responsibility, and Mr. Merlino is sitting right here. He's done the training for our staff. It is not their job to decide if something was bullying. That's the job of the anti-bullying specialist. So we follow the philosophy of identify everything, put it in the hands of the anti-bullying specialist, and we'll move from there. We are not a district that under-investigates. We know it takes a lot of time, but even if it was conflict, it deserves the time to be investigated.
Excellent, thanks.
Thank you. Business administrator's report?
No report tonight.
Thank you. So we'll move on to minutes. We have a review of June 10th. Any questions or comments, please email or call Mr. Marmora. We have the approval of May 13th and May 27th. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the May 13th and the May 27th meeting.
I'll second it. Second by Mrs. Norian. Any questions? Call the question?
Mr. Castro?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Levy?
Yes.
Mrs. Norian?
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes,
Mr. Darian? Mrs. Nichols?
Yes, we'll move to committee reports, buildings and grounds. Mr. Darian?
Yes, I have, we've had no meetings since our last board meeting, and I have nothing on the agenda, so I have nothing to report.
Curriculum, Mrs. Norian?
At this time, we have yet to meet, but our plan is to schedule our meeting for probably next week.
Finance, Mrs. Shapiro.
Hi, sure. So we met on Thursday, mostly tying up like year-end stuff. The minutes were in your packet. And I just want to highlight, because we have pages and pages under finance, just take you through a quick little tour. You'll notice D10, we work with a bazillion vendors, and even though we're a very small district, you know, besides like, you know, food and transportation, we have all the bills and everything else of a district with, you know, 15 schools. You'll see D11, we are buying supplies in bulk, saving the district money, and D15 also using shared services, so that's good that we continue to do that. D20 and D21 are highlight approve the healthcare. We obviously don't have two. The first one is the Private Horizon Plan that will cover just July. The second one is the State Horizon Plan that we discussed, and that one will take over August 1st. And, you know, we discussed last time that it had the favorable coverage and cost savings to both employees and the district, so that was the win-win. And the last thing on the tour is I just noticed added on, we got a nice donation from the American Heart Association, $500, because the kids did a great job with the fundraising, the jump rope for heart, so phys ed will be able to buy $500 worth of equipment. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve items D1 through D28.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Walsh. Any questions?
I have a question. This is for Mr. Marmora, item D2, I'm sorry, I think it's D3. It's the check register. I just see in our attached register here that there was a whole series of small amounts that were paid to individuals, And I think I know what that's for. I just wanted to confirm. It's the refunds to the sixth grade class?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
Okay. So each person who contributed for sixth grade activities, and because we had no activities, they all got a refund with a check?
Yep, that's
Okay.
correct.
Any other questions? I have one question. I think I missed it at finance the other day. D20, you know, where we're approving July 1st through July 31st for drug, health, and dental. Should we also add Delta Dental in there for our dental provider since it's not Horizon? Should we just say through Horizon and Delta Dental, since we're doing the dental rates in there?
Delta's also for our dental. Yeah, I can amend it to put
So-
Delta and,
How do we amend that? Who else have questions? If we want to amend D20 to say through Horizon, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and then also Delta Dental in New Jersey, effective whatever, we can just, who does that? Does Nancy just amend her?
If you consent to that. you
Yes,
make a motion.
I do.
So do
Make
we
a
need to
motion
vote
to
on that
approve
motion?
those
No,
with
you haven't voted on any
So
motion.
she can
Yeah.
just
So you
amend
could
it
just amend it.
D20 amended to say.
to add Delta
to
Dental
add
for the dental
Delta
piece.
Dental of New Jersey, but it's just D20.
And then D21 as well, right?
No, because D21 is putting in Aetna as our new one, and that's for both dental and everything,
Okay.
right? So health prescription drug, state employee health benefits, so that's
Okay,
just
so
the
that's
one,
fine.
yeah.
So it's just D20.
Any other questions? Call the question?
Mr. Castro,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mrs. Levy,
Yes.
Mrs. Norian,
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro,
Yes,
Mr. Walsh,
Yes,
Mr. Darian,
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols.
Yes. Delegate report, Mr. Walsh?
yes, I have delegates assembly on Saturday. It's a virtual meeting. But we're going to discuss two resolutions. Everybody should have a copy of the two resolutions. Page 65 is from the Alpha, Bloomsbury, Powhatan Boards of Education in Warren County, and they want a new policy language seeking to reduce the threshold requirements for representation of a sending board on a receiving board of education. If you look on page 68 and 69 is the answer that the school board came up with, the committee came up with. And that will be voted on, if you read through it, you have to have 10%. These are all sending districts. They're K-8 districts sending to a Phillipsburg school district. You need 10% to have representation on your board.
But this would apply to all regional schools, right?
Yes, well, it does now. Yes, that's the rule now.
And they're trying to
They
reduce
want to
it?
try to change it, but the answer on page 68 and 69 stays with the same language. So if you have 10%, you have a representative, one representative on your board, on your regional board. If you have a couple of towns that don't have 10%, but they have 15%, they can have two representatives. But if you read through this, the towns that are involved, there's 5 that send to this Phillipsburg. 2 of them have the 10%, and the other 3 don't have the 15%. They don't have 10% or 15% together. So there's going to be 3 towns out of the 6, the school district and the 5 towns that are not going to have representation on their board.
So this resolution is to lower the threshold of the 10% so they can have representation on the board.
That's why they brought this up, yes. And the second one,
Oh, before you go on to the second, John, so I'm just quickly looking through here, and it does look like, aside from the minimums, which, you've been discussing so far, above the minimum threshold, the factor of how many board members get on a seating board is the same, meaning that, if I'm reading here, it said that the sending boards of education should have proportional representation, including voting privileges. So based on a percent of total, number of students versus number of students, that determines your representation, and that is consistent with existing legislation. That's not being affected, right?
right, it's not what the towns wanted. The towns wanted a representation from each town,
Okay,
no matter how many students.
okay.
But that's not what the law is. And
So-
they can't change, right now, they can't change the law. If you read onto it, on
So-
page 67 has the breakdown up at the top, has the breakdown of the other towns involved.
So my question, John, would be like, for instance, in our relationship, Oradell and River Edge, we send to Riverdale. And in this particular case,
We don't. It's not a sending, receiving situation. It's a
it doesn't
little
apply to
different.
us?
No, it doesn't apply.
It was set up
No,
because,
It's set up by a regional
I see.
formula.
it was
Okay,
set
Yeah.
up because River Edge has the 10,000 and we only have 8, so they get the
We're
fifth
regional,
member.
not sending, receiving.
Right.
I see. Okay, so that was really the bottom line. It's not going to affect us. in
We
any
tried
way.
to change that in court, but we lost. Okay, moving on to Resolution 2. And this was brought from the Springfield Board of Education. They want new policy language requiring a constituent district of a regional board of education to fill a board vacancy, rather than a regional board which currently has the responsibility to fill the vacancy. So Springfield is a K to 6. And their representative is not there. He left that seat vacant, or she left the seat vacant. So the rule is who's going to take the vote to fill that seat? And if you look on page 76, the committee came up with the language, the recommendation. The resolution subcommittee recommends approval of the resolution with the following substitute resolve language, which would create additional policy language on file 9113. And it says that, 9113 says the school board believes that a vacancy in membership of a Board of Education of a limited purpose regional school district should be filled by majority vote of the Board of Education of the constituent district. So in other words, if it was Oradell, River Edge would not take the vote. Oradell would have to take the vote to fill that seat.
But it is a majority of the vote of the whole Board of Education that votes on that person, but the people who apply for the position can only be from the
From Springfield.
constituent district.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? I'd like to ask our attorney, are those resolutions we should agree with? Because Mr. Walsh is going to be
I don't know.
voting for us.
I don't know if you need a board resolution to do that.
No, but you think,
So-
what's your opinion?
No, so you don't need any action right now.
No, that's not what I'm asking you. What's your opinion on these resolutions, since Mr. Walsh will be voting on them, representing us? Do you think they're good resolutions?
I
do you
think on the later one, so the issue there is that you're allowing another town to vote towards filling a vacancy on the regional board. It makes sense that it's only in the constituent district to do that.
So we would want
I
vote
think you
no
probably
on that
want
one,
that.
since we're in a regional district.
Right. No, so I think that proposal is a good one.
Oh, so that's a
Yeah.
good one. Okay. So we vote yes on both
The
of
first
them?
one, the send and receive, it's really, it does no impact to you, so.
I'll let you know how it turns out.
Okay, let us know. Okay, moving forward, personnel. Mrs. Norian, you want to take that?
We received the backup for the Personnel Committee, and I'd like to present F1 through F7.
I'll second it.
Any questions?
May I ask a question? And maybe I should know this. In terms of the medical examiner, what's the role that's different between the medical examiner and the school physician?
Which one are you, okay, one's for the staff, one's for the students.
Ah, okay.
Is that right? Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
BJ, these are ones we do every year, just because the new school year's coming, so they're just kind of like appointments from like the last one also.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Call the question?
Mr. Castro?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes?
Mrs. Levy?
Yes.
Mrs. Norian?
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes,
Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols?
Yes, policy, Mrs. Levy?
Thank you. We have not met since the last meeting. We were giving Mrs. Longo some time to get done with the end of school, but we are going to plan a meeting now so that we can review our, any policies that may need to be reviewed, and additionally, Mrs. Longo is also going to check with school boards to see what would be coming down the pike so that we could deal with it over the summer.
Thank you. Public Relations, Mr. Griffin?
Yes, we met on June 15th and talked about, first, the remote learning survey, made some recommendations on suggestions, questions that we wanted to have included. And then we also discussed the newsletter, which I hope all of you have seen. It looks great. It came out in the mail recently. So that was great. Congratulations to everybody for that worked on that. Thank you. We also talked about standardizing backgrounds for our Zoom meetings at board meetings going forward, and discussed that the PR committee was making that recommendation going forward. Role of the PR, we talked about how PR committee is involved in rapid response, and the discussion really along that was what the protocol has been in the past. And in the past, the president, vice president, superintendent, and lawyer, when needed, work together on a rapid response effort. The PR chair is not consulted on any of these efforts. A suggestion was made to formalize this process through the policy, and Jeremy recommended that the PR committee chair should be involved. The committee didn't come to any conclusion on that or consensus recommendation. Some felt the system was working as is and didn't need any changes or further policies.
And I would just like to clarify, another comment that was made during that meeting was generally any rapid response in a crisis situation will come from the superintendent, because if something happens in the school, it will not come from the board. Generally, the board, very rarely would we put out a statement unless it has to do with the board. So those statements would always come from the superintendent. Anything else?
No, that concludes my report. Thank you so much.
May I ask a question about something in the report? The remote learning survey, and I don't know if this would be to the PR committee or, will the board be privy to the information that comes?
Yes.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Do you know if the survey's completed, if we've gotten any responses, or?
Maybe half already, right? The period for the survey is closed, so I've analyzed half of the data. It will probably take me another week to get this.
Do you know how many people responded, like how many parents responded?
47%, because it's not by parent, it's by student. Because
Oh,
we ask
okay.
Parents if they have multiple children.
That's good.
Multiple surveys.
That's good.
750 students in the school, 354 responses.
That's awesome.
47.
That's good.
Response rate. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, open to the public. Oh, did I miss something?
No, are there people on Zoom or no? Sorry.
There's 12 people.
Oh, okay.
So the people on Zoom, it's open to the public. If you would like to, if you would like to speak, just raise your hand on your Zoom profile. Hopefully they can hear me.
You should close it. There's none.
Yeah, I'm going to. Okay, not seeing any, we're going to move forward. Any old or new business? Mr. Griffin? Oh, sorry. Who went first?
I'll default, that's fine.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Mrs. Shapiro, I didn't see you.
Okay. Just a quick update. As you may know, my youngest graduated from OPS last week, and this is kind of the last time I get to chime in as a parent, and I wanted to share this with the board. After a long quarantine, many people were sad that graduation was canceled. And to quote a fellow parent, Maria Elise, the festivities were not canceled, they were just reinvented. And there was such an overwhelming community effort in which the sixth graders felt really special, with many thoughtful, unexpected, and creative ways to honor them, and I wanted to share that with you. The admin team, every time I drove by the school, you guys were practicing for the graduation ceremony. It was beautiful and a seamless virtual graduation, including all of the photos that the parents had put together from when they were little and over the years, and of course we were all in tears. The office delivered to us all of the certificates for everything, even though there was no award ceremony, and the kids got their Board of Ed, really beautiful Board of Ed pen to our homes the week before the graduation. On that day, there were so many Facebook posts acknowledging all the kids who did Safety Patrol, Math League, Student Government, wasn't expecting any of it, and it was beautiful. And what I think blew all of us away was every year the school gives the Oradell Public School Kid Award for optimism, positivity, and spirit, and it goes to one child. And they decided to give it to the entire grade for their resiliency during the pandemic. And they're going to be on a plaque in the building forever, commemorated, and the plaque is already here. All of these kids are going to be on it. Super touching. The parents came together and decorated 70 homes for a scavenger hunt for the sixth graders. The admin team participated with a really cute Lego set. The sixth grade team participated. It was beautiful. The police, the fire department, municipal officials, even stores in town did too. That last goodbye, drive-by, wave-by was outstanding. And I could see the tears streaming down some of the parents' faces, whether it was your only kid, your last kid, all of the OPS alumni, all the way up through college, were stuffed in the cars to wave goodbye to their teachers. And even retired teacher Peter Castors drove 12 hours to be part of that, which of course put my son, like, he burst into tears. It was, the children were beautifully celebrated, and I wanted you all to know that. The day wasn't what we expected, but the celebration of their OPS journey was not diminished. So, thank you.
I saw there's a sign on your lawn too. I think who did that?
The teaching staff put signs on the lawns too. Yeah, that was a nice surprise too. So they have two signs, one from the sixth grade parents and one from the teachers. Really cute panther one.
Mr. Griffin?
I want to also, congratulate the whole administrative staff for finishing this year. Like, it was all about reinvention, and that, the graduation was a perfect example of innovation and reinvention. Nancy, I thought you did a great speech at the event. I thought it was really nice. And I think more than anything, all of this has probably taught us that tough situations can be transformed so that we can all rise above. And I think that if there's any lesson from this year, it's that the best of us comes out of the hardest things we face, and hopefully we can turn bad things, whatever they are, and make things better out of it.
Thanks. I have a couple of things. I first wanted to publicly say congratulations to the 6th grade, and I must apologize to Mr. Mora, Mrs. Longo, and Mrs. Nichols because I misread an email, and there was in fact information that was given to me that I misunderstood about the 6th grade graduation, so I didn't get to publicly come in and say goodbye. I did notice the parade, and that was lovely. I also thought I saw on the some people's lawns in towns the Panther sign from the teachers, which I thought was a beautiful touch. Hopefully we won't ever have to do this again, but in the future, if there's a scavenger hunt, I think some board members would love to participate or decorate their homes. But I thought that was wonderful. I also thought that it was beautiful, Mrs. Ricciardi's drive-by. I will tell you that I did not plan ahead because I had a conference call right before, and I had to go all the way down Oradell Avenue, past the blinking light, to get online to do the drive-by for Mrs. Ricciardi. And thank you to the Oradell Police Department who set it all up and blocked everything off so everybody can do it safely. And to the teachers and to the administration who was playing Lion King music and everything, so the kids were singing and everything as they went by. It was really, really beautiful. And I also say it was a tough year, but even at your computer give back, they tried to do something fun. I think it was Miss Hawley had a bubble machine as you returned your computer. I thought that was just a really nice touch, and so everybody did really make the best out of a really tough situation. I had one question. I know as a parent we received information about the field trip money being transferred to next year. And I don't hope this is okay. I'm asking if a certain parent wanted to get their money returned, are they allowed to reach out to Mr. Memorial?
They can reach out to anyone, but it's going to be on a case-by-case basis because if anyone disenrolls, they need to let us know. We're going to automatically send them that thing, but anyone can reach out to Mr. Marmaro.
Okay, that's fine. So anybody has that, they can reach out to Mr. Memorial, that they see that. And that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Darian?
Yeah, I had some remarks, but I don't know, it's hard to follow, the comments that have already been said. I watched the graduation ceremony while I was working, since I'm an avid fan of our YouTube channel, and I subscribe and I like to I hit the bell, I hit the button, I am a subscriber, I get notified, so I watched it live, and it was very impressive. I was just blown away. I watch a lot of videos, a lot of live feeds, and I was very, very, very impressed. It was very impressive. And I know that, the technology was new. Some of the things that we were doing was the first time, so I'm sure there was nerve-wracking. But it was really good. It was very professional. So hats off to Megan and her staff for all the work that they did. It was very impressive.
Robbie really deserves.
Yay, Ron.
Thank you. It was great, it really was.
The whole admin team, really.
Yeah.
And then if anyone else want to say anything about graduation, I just also want to comment about on Church Street, we had to cut down some shrubs or some trees. They were arborvitae, so I don't know whether it's a shrub or a tree. They were tall. And we've now replaced them with new. So, good job to the landscaper, whoever we hired to do it, because it actually looks really nice. So, I'd just like to make a comment on how impressed I was with the work done on the landscaping there.
Ms. Orion?
I just wanted to add that I found out that I was the only one who couldn't watch the graduation on the day of graduation. But that did not mean, not the only one, also Ms. Bozio's mother was also not able to access it. So we've been put into the same category. I have to meet your mother at some point. But I will say that regardless, they made sure that I was able to access it and sent me a link to it so that I could see it much later. And I appreciated it as well, even though I did not see it before I walked over to wave from the back of everybody else as the kids went by. So thank you to Ms. Bozio's and Remy. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I have one other question. I know that there was also the giving back of materials was done very smoothly. How are we doing on library books, Ms. Bozios, if I'm allowed to ask?
We are down to only 40 students owing a library book.
Woo, that's pretty impressive.
150.
All right. So everybody watching who haven't returned their library books, you can still do it. It's not too late.
Any other, new or old business? I just have, Mr. Griffin.
I have a couple old items. We had scheduled a mental health presentation by Matt Lee. I'd love to see us follow up and get that done at some point, because that report that came out is very valuable. I'd love to see us still do that. I know that the state's coming out with recommendations on school year for next year. As those come out, I know they're not out yet. I just would put in a formal request for us to have a presentation at some point about what's going on. And then the last new business is I had sent in code of conduct for Zoom meetings. I don't know if we're going to be continuing on with Zoom meetings or if we're going to do them here, but New Jersey School Board has a code of conduct that I would like for us to review on future meetings.
So do we do this through committee, or do we just email it to all the board members and discuss it under new business
I
next
think it's
time?
policy, so I would do it in policy committee.
Okay, then I would recommend it to be reviewed by the policy committee.
We just want to email it?
Sure.
Any other older new business? I just have one item. Don't forget, Board of Ed elections are coming up. And I believe the last thing I saw from school boards was that the petitions are still due in person. What's the date, July?
It's the last Monday in July.
So if anyone's, I think, who's up? Oh, you, Rita, Nancy, VJ. Okay, so there's 4.
27th, yep.
So just be aware of that, it's coming. Any other old or new business? Any need for a closed session?
Nope. I move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Catherine,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Walsh at 8:18. Thank you all.
Just
Happy
call me
4th of
Dr.
July.
Westwood.
We won't have a parade this year.
Oh, no candy shopping.